Now, as we all know, timing pugs isn't always the easiest thing. Sometimes you get into groups where people are just struggling that day or even just dying on repeat. Now, we can't 100% control what other people are doing, but there are certain things we as DKs can do to kind of influence, help our team keep them alive, and overall just time more keys by using our utility effectively. In this video, we're going to go over 5 tips aside from just pumping as much damage as you can in your keys to help you time them and hopefully increase the likelihood that you won't have such a miserable time in LFG. But without further ado, let's get into the first tip.
All right, the first spell that you should be pressing more in dungeons is Blinding Sleet. Now, Blinding Sleet is an AoE disorient that allows us to stop a lot of the shenanigans we experience in the dungeons this season. If you're in a group where the tank pulled a lot of casters or mobs with channels that can't be kicked, like the Kelp Fist and Floodgate, for example, Blinding Sleet is an awesome option because it will stop that and anything in a 15-yard range in front of you. Blinding Sleet is a 60-second cooldown, it's instant cast, and it costs us no resources to use. So it's definitely something you should be pressing almost as often as you can. The more things you can stop with this ability and the rest of the abilities in this list, the more people you will save. Think of it like every time you stop one of the casts that goes off with this ability, you're saving a teammate's life. And if you're saving teammates' lives, you have a higher chance of timing keys. But yeah, very important in AoE pulls. Just press it. You'll feel a lot better not taking as much damage. Your healer will feel a lot better. And honestly, the key will feel super fast because your damage as a group pull will be a lot higher because the healer can DPS more. The other DPS can DPS more without having to waste defensives, stuff like that. So yeah, Blinding Sleep, 60-second cooldown. AoE disorient, stops, interrupts, stops, casts, you name it. Doesn't work on every mob in the dungeon pool, but does work on a lot. Tip number 2, using our death grips. With 2 charges of death grip, it can be used in a lot of ways to benefit the group. The most common and visually effective way is to grab a mob that doesn't come in during the gather to make sure it's nicely grouped and can be cleaved down, or mobs that jump away during the pull. You can also use your pull to keep a fixating mob away from its target. Just make sure you're away from the boss, teammate, or whatever else that mob is trying to get to. Now, we do have another ability called Abomination Limb or Slappy Hands, and this is also great to be used for any of the things listed above. So 2-minute cooldown does a bit of extra damage. Definitely press it off cooldown if you can. But if you know a big pack of like jumping away mobs, think like in Theater of Pain where the mobs all jump away from you, definitely save Slappy Hands. Otherwise, just send it. Now, there is another way to use our death grips, and that's kind of to lock down a mob to make sure it won't get a cast off. Think like the Slime, Heal Absorb, and Workshop, or the RPGist and Floodgate, really anything you don't want to allow a channeled cast off. Every time we grip a mob, it interrupts them. And although it might go unnoticed to some people in your team, this could ultimately save your key run. If a heal absorb goes off at the wrong time, or someone stands in the swirly from the RPGist, really you're just allowing your team to play better because you're doing everything in your power to control the outcome. Moving on to our third tip. Anti-Magic Zone. Anti-Magic Zone is a massive group defensive and only with a 2-minute CD. It can be used in many different situations throughout a key, and if you happen to not be taking AMZ right now, please go change that in your talents. It will not only help you, it will allow your team to take not as much damage in certain areas, saving CDs, keeping the healer on top of it, and more importantly, keeping people alive. If you're in a dungeon and you're not super sure where a big burst of magic damage is coming from, just put it down when you think damage is coming. If you take less damage, perfect. It's magic. If not, it's physical and you know for the next time. It is one of my favorite ways to learn dungeons, as I feel it sticks with me better than reading guides, dungeon journals, or however else you may learn dungeons and stuff like that. However, if you are someone who likes to read places, find out exact areas, I do have a Google Doc linked below of just some spots you can use AMZ. You don't have to use them there, but these are just some spots I like to use AMZ in all the dungeons. So if you want to check that out, I will leave it down in the description below. But just some examples for you guys. There is the Candle Blowout in DFC on the second boss, Big Mama's Intermission in Floodgate, Mechagon Workshop, Marksman 3 Short Out, the Paladin Sacred Toll in Priory. And yeah, that's just kind of some of the shenanigans that come to mind. But again, if you would like, there is a link down below to just a lot of different places. But I do encourage you to just kind of experiment when you know damage is coming or you think damage is coming. Put it down. If damage came, great. If not, no worries. Ultimately, though, I would challenge you guys to try using your AMZ 5 times or more in a dungeon. See if you can find 5 useful areas that you can use your AMZ to help your team. And if that's too easy for you, bump it up to 6 or 7. Keeping with the theme of magic reduction, tip number 4 is our anti-magic shell. This, in my opinion, is the best ability in the entire game, and I think it also separates a good DK from a great one depending on how they use it. There are 2 really efficient ways in which you can use your AMS. The first I have talked about in previous videos and voiceover guides, but you want to pre-AMS or use it to do mechanics to make boss fights easier. Think like the second boss of Priory where we have to soak those orbs, the second boss of Rookery where you have to soak off the tank absorb, or really anything like that where you could take a dot before it gets applied to help your healers. However, there is another way which you can use your AMS to advantage, and this one won't really be shown front and center, but it will allow you to do more damage. Now, you must be thinking, how can I use AMS offensively if AMS is a defensive ability? Well, I am happy you asked how you can do this, because when you AMS and it absorbs a certain amount of magic damage, you actually gain runic power, so you're able to cast more death coils. Or if you are a frost enjoyer out there, this is a great option for keeping breath up if you are using breath, or just more runic power so you can get more frost strikes in. Ideally, you should always be looking to use AMS to help out your healers or your team. However, if you have no option to do that, you can maximize your uptime by using it to kind of take damage when you otherwise wouldn't. Think similar to Cinderbrew when the rest of your team has to get out from the B-side stun, but you can stand in that with AMS, gain yourself some runic power, do more damage. Now, last but certainly, in my opinion, the most important tip in this video are interrupts or kicks. Now, this is more of a universal tip for whichever character you're on, but we as DKs are blessed with an amazing kick. Not only do we have a short 15-second cooldown, we also have 15 yards of range so that we are able to kick targets that don't necessarily meet the criteria of melee range. Now, certain packs will have priority kicks, but other than that, you should be making it a goal to kick almost everything you can into a dungeon. You can even track kicks on one of your details window if you want, challenge your friends, and see who has the most kicks in the end. If you are continuously interrupting mobs, with the added bonus of Blinding Sleet and the 2 pulls we talked about earlier, we can essentially lock down a mob for its entire life. Now, there are a few ways to handle interrupts. You can create a focus macro, you can tab to the target, and lastly, you can just sit on the mob, which I think is a great option if there's no super important prio mob in the pack. For tabbing to the target, if you are on a main target and another mob in the pack starts casting, pressing tab will instantly bring you to that mob, allowing you to kick it. In cases where there are no clear priority mob, like I said, just sit on the caster. It'll die quicker. It'll help in pugs, especially with no comms and people missing kicks all the time. The less kicks that go out, just the better, less damage. Overall, a better experience for you. Ideally, the least amount of casts that go out in a dungeon throughout the duration of your key, the better. So you should aim to try and stop as many kicks as physically possible in your gameplay. Similar to the AMZ goal, I challenge yourself to try and get 20 plus kicks a dungeon every time you step into one. And if you start playing with friends, challenge them. Offer them up a coffee, offer them up some WoW gold. Whoever has the most interrupts by the end of the key owes you like 10k gold or something. Ideally, this is just kind of to get your mind in the idea of stopping as many casts as possible, because the more casts that go out, the more damage goes out, the more people die. Now, the inverse of that is less casts going out, less damage going out, less people dying. And with less people dying, you time more keys because there's more damage, no running back, you don't lose the 15 seconds for the death, and overall, you will just climb in IO.
Now, these tips might not seem like they do that much on paper, or you might not see them in the DPS meters, anything like that, but trust me, they will help you time more keys. Essentially, the more you keep your team alive, the more keys you're going to time. And even if it doesn't feel like you're keeping them alive, trust me, you are. The less casts that go out, the more damage you block. Essentially, the more you can do in your individual play to help your team, the less you have to rely on others to time those keys. So yeah, I hope this helps. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comments. You can join my Discord, ask me there. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope to help you improve your gameplay just ever so slightly, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.